And welcome. Our top focus is this hour in the latest of the ongoing Israel-Hamas war. The fatalities are on the rise in the besieged Gaza Strip, according to Hamas. The Central Gaza Hospital witnessed 71 fatalities in the span of 24 hours. All the regions in Gaza are under constant attack. The IDF released a video of attacks on the northeastern region of Beit Hanun. Israeli strikes in the southern region of Han Yunis hit targeted a residential building. Large plumes of smoke rose from the building after it was attacked. The Gaza Health Ministry, controlled by Hamas, said at least 10 people were killed in the airstrike. The IDF has intensified its operations in south and in the north as well. The wounded were rushed to the hospitals after strikes hit Han Yunis. Tensions are on the rise on the Israel-Lebanon border as well. Shell fires were seen in the skies near the border. The IDF and Iran-backed Lebanese group Hezbollah exchanged fires. For the 2 months, residents living on the border are under constant threat of the daily exchanges. The Palestinians who are taking refuge at the Rafah crossing are worried about their safety. There is no area untouched by the IDF. Continuous fighting and airstrikes have forced the Palestinians to flee their homes and take refuge in the makeshift camps, which they set anywhere to feel safe.
فيش امان عندهم وهين حاطين على حدود مصر. هي على حدود مصر احنا قاعدين شاردين من القصف ومن الموت. احنا يا عمي بقينا جوا نشتغل في اسرائيل. احنا بقينا نشتغل. هلقيتها فيش عندهم بقتلوا الحجر والطفل ولا شيء بخلوه. احنا هنا اخر مرحله على مصر.
خرجنا من خان يونس وصلنا على حدود رفح المصريه حاليا، احنا عند الحدود وقال هذه مناطق امنه. وان شاء الله تكون امنه يا رب. مش عارفين لسه ايش يصير معنا. وهذا اخر توصيله الى الجنوب. غير هيك ما في الحدود المصريه او البحر منها ما في.
On the other hand, rockets continue to be fired from Gaza Strip towards Israel as well. A barrage of rockets were launched that forced many to run for cover in different parts of Israel. These are the visuals from Tel Aviv showing Israel's Iron Dome system intercepting the rockets. Another video released by Hamas shows militants attacking Israeli military vehicles in Gaza. On the diplomatic front, earlier, U.S. vetoed the United Nations Security Council resolution, which was introduced after United Nations Secretary General, that is, Antonio Guterres, invoked Article 99 of the United Nations Charter to bring the issue to immediate attention of the Security Council. Despite U.S. increasing pressure on Israel to do more to protect Palestinian civilians, it, for the second time, became the only opposing vote on such a resolution. The United Kingdom, another permanent member, abstained from voting. Responding to United States action, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas said that the United States is responsible for the bloodshed of children in Gaza. Abbas further described US's stance as aggressive and immortal. On the other side, the Israeli government praised the veto. Arab nations have said that they will not intervene militarily in the war. The statement was made by the Saudi Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan. He further mentioned that, and I quote, "Violence is not the answer." The minister was speaking at a discussion held in Washington with the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken. Farhan was joined by his counterparts from Jordan, Qatar, and Egypt. Scott Lucas is a professor of international politics, Clinton Institute, University College Dublin. Professor Scott is joining us live from Birmingham. Professor, welcome to the show. Quick question, can there be a ceasefire after US vetoed it at the United Nations?
You'll need to ask the Israeli government that. We're now in a situation, as we are in the third month of this cycle of violence, started by Hamas, but then continued by Israel, where the Israeli War Cabinet has decided on an open-ended war. That's an open-ended war in terms of that it will last as long as they think it necessary to, quote, destroy Hamas, or until their own domestic population turns against them, which I don't think will happen. And it is a war not just against Hamas, but it is a war against Gaza civilians. Because there is no way, even if Israel wanted to protect Gaza civilians, which it shows in no indication that it wants to do so, that in such a densely populated area with 1.8 million of the 2.3 million population displaced, that those civilians can be protected from the air and the ground assaults.
Professor, what does this veto essentially mean, in your own view?
Well, I think it means specifically for the United States that the U.S. Has, in effect, accepted this open-ended Israeli war. I don't think it's the case. Quite often you have the myth that the U.S. always supports Israel, that it's unconditional support. I think it's quite clear that the U.S. and most of the international community for weeks tried to keep the Israelis from going in with the ground offensive, from going in with the all-out bombing. But at the end of the day, when the Israeli War Cabinet made their decision, especially after the week-long humanitarian pause ended a couple of weeks ago, once the Israelis made that decision, they were going to show leverage by at least abstaining on a Security Council resolution for a ceasefire, if not supporting it, like France did yesterday. Or secondly, and probably even more importantly, the United States had to cut military assistance to Israel. But instead of doing that, the United States has provided more than 15,000 bombs to Israel since October 7th. More than 10,000 of those bombs are unguided bombs. In other words, they don't precisely hit Hamas targets, they hit anything. And the U.S. has provided more than 50,000 shells. And President Biden said yesterday that they will provide another 45,000. So yes, without taking sides, without supporting any political statements, the U.S. is now enabling the Israeli open-ended attacks on Hamas and on the Gazan civilians.
Finally, Professor, your reaction to Saudi Foreign Minister saying Arab states are not going to intervene militarily in the Israel-Hamas war?
Well, I think there's a series of motives here. I mean, specifically for the Saudis. Remember that, up until October 7th, they were, discussing the normalization of relations with Israel. They were already trying to build up economic links. The Saudis had not ruled out returning to those normalization talks once the violence stops in Gaza. So there's no way they want a head-on clash with the Israelis. A state like Jordan, its main concern right now is ensuring that the violence doesn't spill over into its territory, which has always been a bit fragile in terms of with a large number of Palestinians who live there. And other Arab states, quite frankly, do not want to square up to the Israelis, both specifically because of, that is putting themselves at risk, but also because if you have a wider war with Israel, that also raises the prospect of Iran trying to take advantage, not only through Palestinian groups, but also through a group like Hezbollah.
Scott Lucas is a professor of international politics, Clinton Institute, University College Dublin. Professor Scott, thank you very much for talking to us today.
Thank you.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.